Hello dear students of class 10th, welcome to history class. I hope all of you are fit and healthy. Students, in this video I shall be continuing with the second chapter from your history book, that is Nationalism in India. Students, in the last video I explained you about the impacts of the First World War on Indian national movement, that how the First World War created fertile grounds for the rise of Indian national movement or nationalism in our country, how it helped to emerge the feeling, the sense of nationalism, right. So, I told you a number of points, for example, increase in defense expenditure by the Britishers, then increase in the price of commodities, essential commodities, then forced recruitments, the villagers were forced to supply their people to the Britishers in order to fight, then acute shortage of food because of crop failure. So, there were a number of points, a number of series that created fertile ground or that created a wonderful stage for the emergence of Indian national movement, right. So, till there I have already explained you. Now, let us come to the next point, that is the idea of Satyagraha, or I would say the next topic, that is the idea of Satyagraha. See, as I told you that First World War created ground for Indian national movement. Let me also tell you that after that only or during that time only a new leader came to our country. That was not a Britisher, that was definitely an Indian, but he came from South Africa. And who was he? He was Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, that is Mahatma Gandhi. He came to our country from South Africa. So, Mahatma Gandhi returned to India, I would not say he came to India, he returned to India in January 1915 from South Africa. Now, what was he doing in South Africa? See, he was a barrister, that means he was a lawyer, and he also went to South Africa for his education purpose. So, he was a lawyer as well as he went there for education purpose. So, he returned back to India, cut this line. So, he returned to India in January 1915, and he did not come to India, return to India alone. He came to India with the idea of Satyagraha. He brought a new idea of Satyagraha, and this Satyagraha was a tried and tested method, or I would say step. Now, how and where it was tried? It was tried in South Africa. So, with this method only he was able to fight with the racial discrimination. You know, he fought the racist regime in South Africa with a noble method of mass agitation. Now, what is the meaning of Satyagraha? If we divide this word into two parts, first word is Satya and the second word is Agraha. Satya means truth and Agraha means to hold firm. So, Satyagraha is a Hindi term which means, it is an idea that has emphasized, the power of truth and the need to search for truth, alright. Now, let me tell you about the philosophy of Satyagraha, that why Satyagraha or what is the essence of Satyagraha. See students, Satyagraha means that if the cause was true and if the struggle was against injustice, then physical force was not necessary to fight the oppressor. That means you do not have to fight, you do not have to beat that person or cause damage or harm to that person. So, Satyagraha basically means that if the cause was true and if the struggle was against injustice, then physical force was not needed at all, and without being aggressive, a Satyagrahi could win the battle through a powerful tool, a powerful weapon called as the tool of non-violence. Now, how can a person win a fight or win a war without fighting, actually, without applying physical force. See, this can be done by appealing to the conscience of the oppressor. That means, oppressor means a person who is doing wrong. If we make that person realize, the one who is doing wrong, if we make that realize, if we make his or her conscience realize that yes, he is doing wrong, then definitely we can win the war. No need to fight, no need to inculcate or include violence. Violence is not needed. So make the oppressor realize. If you make the oppressor realize, then truth is bound to triumph. That means definitely you will get success without the use of violence. So this was the idea of Satyagraha that was given by Mahatma Gandhi, a tried and tested method. Now we will see that how it got tested in India. You know, with this Satyagraha, there were experiments done in India also. So now we are going to see the experiments with Satyagraha in India. Basically, students, let me tell you that 3 experiments were made, or I would say, when Gandhiji returned to India, then first of all he went to Champaran in the year 1917, and he tried and tested his movement, or I'm saying again. You know, students, when Gandhiji came to India, then in 1917 he went to Champaran, and there he started this Satyagraha, and this got success also. This was successful. So first was in Champaran, first experiment in Champaran is in Bihar in the year 1917. Then second also in 1917, but in Kheda. Kheda is in Gujarat, and the third one is Ahmedabad in the year 1918, and Ahmedabad is also in Gujarat. So we will see that how these experiments, or I would say how in these areas, in these regions, Mahatma Gandhi got successful by using the weapon or tool of non-violence. All right. So students, first let's start with the first experiment of Mahatma Gandhi in India, the first official experiment, that is Champaran, Bihar in the year 1917. So what happened? In the year 1917, Gandhiji went to Champaran, which is in Bihar. Why he went to Champaran? In order to support, in order to inspire the peasants to struggle against the oppressive plantation owners. Why? Because you know what happened, the peasants in Champaran, that area, those peasants were forced to grow indigo, and indigo was used as dye by the Britishers, alright, to color the clothes. So when they started growing indigo, the land was no more fertile. That land could not be used for the growth or for the production of any other crop. So these peasants were actually forced to grow indigo and other cash crops instead of food crops, because the Britishers got maximum profit with the growth of, or with the production of indigo and other cash crops. And you know what, the Britishers hardly paid the peasants, they were not paid fairly. So Gandhiji supported those peasants. He arrived to Champaran with several other lawyers like Rajendra Prasad, Anugrah Narayan Sinha, Acharya Kriplani, etc. So these lawyers also went along with Gandhiji, and finally this method was successful. The peasants, they put forward their opinion, they struggled against the peasants the peasants struggled against the oppressive plantation systems, the owners, and then finally they were successful. So this was the first Satyagraha of Mahatma Gandhi. The question may come in your examination regarding the first Satyagraha of Mahatma Gandhi, that where he organized his first Satyagraha. So the first Satyagraha was organized in Champaran, Bihar. Alright. So this was the first one. Now let's come to the second one, that is in Kheda. Where is Kheda? Kheda is in Gujarat. So in the year 1917 only this also took place. Now, what happened in Kheda? See, the people of Kheda were affected by crop failure and plague epidemic, and the peasants of Kheda, they could not pay revenue and they were demanding relaxation in revenue. So, Gandhiji organized a satyagraha in Kheda also, and he got, and so Gandhiji organized a satyagraha in Kheda in order to support, in order to inspire the peasants, and there also he got successful. So, this was the second satyagraha that was organized by Gandhiji after returning from South Africa. Then the third one is in Ahmedabad, which is in Gujarat. So, this was organized in the year 1918. Okay. So, students, now talking about Ahmedabad, the satyagraha that was organized by Gandhiji in Ahmedabad. So, in the year 1918, Gandhiji went to Ahmedabad in order to support the cotton mill workers in Ahmedabad. Why they wanted support? Why the cotton mill workers wanted support? Actually, they wanted support from the cotton mill owners. Now, what was the reason? See, actually that time inflation was very high, and so because of that they wanted allowance. So, in order to help them, in order to support them and inspire them, he organized a satyagraha in Ahmedabad also in the year 1918, and which was very successful. So, these are the three experiments, or these were the three experiments of Gandhiji in India, the first three experiments. Alright. So, I hope till here points are clear to everybody. Now, students, we shall be proceeding with the next important act, that is Rowlatt Act. I told you that I will be explaining you about non-cooperation movement. So, let me tell you that this non-cooperation movement started with Rowlatt Act. Okay. First we will see Rowlatt Act, then we will see Rowlatt Satyagraha. See, first this act was passed by the colonial government, the British government, and against this Gandhiji brought Rowlatt Satyagraha. So, we will be studying after Rowlatt Satyagraha after Rowlatt Act, that what is this Rowlatt Act. Let me tell you that Rowlatt Act is also called as black law. Why it is called as black law? I will tell you. Students, Rowlatt Act was passed by the Imperial Legislative Council, and this act, it gave the government immense power, enormous power. Power of what? Power to repress political activities and allowed detention of political prisoners without trial of 2 years. That means anybody could be arrested without any ground. Means totally unfair. According to this law, according to this Rowlatt Act or Rowlatt law, the Britishers could arrest anybody, any political prisoner, or they could ban any political activity, and they could arrest anybody and put into prison without trial for 2 years. Definitely people were sent to prison that time, but for 2 years this is totally illogical. It is totally unfair. So, this was the Rowlatt Act, that they could send anybody to prison without trial for 2 years. That means they can arrest anybody and they will be locked in the prison for 2 years without knowing their fault also. And after 2 years they could say that, okay, you have not done anything, by mistake we arrested you. So, this was totally unfair. So, this was the Rowlatt Act, or I would say Rowlatt law. So, in order to oppose this, Gandhiji organized Rowlatt Satyagraha. Please, I think you are able to connect that why this Rowlatt Satyagraha was organized by Gandhiji in order to counter Rowlatt Act, alright, which is also called as black law. So, actually in this Rowlatt Satyagraha, Gandhiji wanted a non-violent civil disobedience against such unjust laws and decided to make hartals against this on 6th April 1919, but peacefully. Everything that was done by Gandhiji, any movement or every movement that was organized by Gandhiji was was a non-violent movement. That means no violence were used, everything was done very peacefully. So he wanted a so Gandhiji wanted a non-violent civil disobedience. Civil disobedience means, civil means the people, masses, and disobedience means to disobey, to not follow. So he wanted the people to unfollow everything and to come forward for hartals, but that should be done in a peaceful manner. So this was Rowlatt Satyagraha that was organized by Gandhiji to counter Rowlatt Act. Now seeing all this, the Britishers thought that okay, now they are organizing satyagrahas, they are having hartal, they are doing hartals. So now we have to do something to disrupt them, to destroy everything. So what they decided? They decided, so actually I am saying again. So seeing all this, that means when the Britishers saw Gandhiji launching Rowlatt Satyagraha, they thought that we have to do something or the other in order to stop them. We have to stop the nationalism movement within the people. So they started arresting people in Amritsar, and you know, even Gandhiji was barred from entering Delhi. He was not allowed to enter Delhi. And you know, on 10th April, the police in Amritsar, they fired upon a peaceful procession, provoking widespread attacks on banks, post offices and railway stations. Means the police, the colonial government, they were provoking the people who were very peacefully doing their hartals, they were provoking them. So when they were provoked, what happened? Violence started, and as violence started, the Britishers got a tool that okay, now you people are doing violence, now we can do anything. So in order to counter that violence, the Britishers imposed a martial law. So a martial law was imposed and General Dyer took command of it. Now what was martial law? See, according to martial law, there would be no public gatherings, no political activities could be carried and no political protest could be done. So this was there in martial law, and you know, most of the people were not aware of martial law. This was decided by the British government that there will not be any kind of public gathering, and if that will be there, then they would be arrested or they would be fired. And then came the Jallianwala Bagh incident, very important, that you have already studied in class 8th also. See, what happened here on 13th April 1919, I am saying again, and after that happened the infamous Jallianwala Bagh incident, that is on 13th April 1919. See, Jallianwala Bagh is basically a park or a bagh in Amritsar. It is an enclosed park having only one gate, only one main gate is there and no other gates are there inside that park. So on that day, large crowd was gathered in that Jallianwala Bagh. Why they were gathered? They were gathered because of two reasons. Some people have gathered in order to protest against the government, against the colonial government, the ways they were trying to harass, the ways they were trying to provoke the Indians, the nationalists in India. And the second, some people from the villages, they also came to Jallianwala Bagh in order to celebrate Baisakhi. There was a Baisakhi fair that time. So in order to participate, in order to enjoy that fair, many people from the villages also came, and they were completely unaware of the martial law that was imposed by the Britishers. And after that, what happened? See, General Dyer, he took command, he ordered to close the gate and he ordered to openly fire on the people. The people were very innocent, they were not knowing, they came to celebrate Baisakhi fair, some came to have protests, but peaceful protests. But the Britishers, they were very clever. They thought that okay, now people have gathered here and we have imposed martial law according to which no public gatherings could be there. Now people have gathered, now we have got every right to fire on them, and then they were fired and thousands of people, they died in that infamous Jallianwala Bagh incident. So I hope Jallianwala Bagh incident is clear to everybody. Alright. So I hope till here points are clear to everybody. In the next video, I shall be explaining you about the aftermath of Jallianwala Bagh incident. That means what happened after several people died. What was the response of the people, response of the Indians, as well as the response of the Britishers, the counter response. Alright. So students, thank you so much. Stay connected and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.